Developing tonight, a federal judge is ordering that all Texas voters, regardless of age, can apply for a mail-in ballot during the coronavirus pandemic. Eyewitness News reporter Holly Stover explains this latest twist in a big voting battle here in Texas.
District Judge Fred Beery agrees with the Texas Democratic Party. He says voters could put their safety at risk if they decide to go to the polls. Typically, you have to be 65 years or older to qualify for a mail-in ballot. But under his order, everyone qualifies. In the ruling against the state, Beery did not side with Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who told him to hold off. In a statement, Paxton says, quote, "The district court's opinion ignores the evidence and disregards well-established law. We will seek immediate review by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals." In the federal lawsuit, Texas Democrats said having traditional elections under these circumstances would put unconstitutional burdens on voters, unless the state expanded requirements for vote by mail. During San Antonio's nightly coronavirus briefing, Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolf praised the federal judge for his decision.
But I'm telling you right now, we're dancing in the streets. Thank goodness somebody stood up to protect the vulnerable people in our community.
But Wolf doesn't know how long they'll be dancing for, since the order could still be appealed.
Holly joins us now live. Holly, those against this say it could hurt the integrity of an election.
Deborah, that's exactly what the state is arguing here. But during a federal court hearing on Friday, Judge Beery scrutinized the state, saying they have little to no evidence of widespread fraud in other states where voting by mail is more widely used. Now, we wait to see what the Fifth Circuit Court has to say about this. Reporting live, Holly Stover, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.